Happy New Year, y'all. Or as I like to say lately, hello New Year. So a little backstory about this video. I had been happily using this lovely little app called Habit List for the past 3 years. But when I updated to iOS 17 a couple months ago, Habit List totally bugged out, which of course frustrated me greatly, and I was genuinely sad because I've really loved using this app to keep track of my daily habits for so long. But if there's one powerful lesson I've been rather begrudgingly learning this last couple of years, it is good to look at problems as opportunities. Because my beloved Habits app no longer worked, I was forced to do some research and see what else is out there on the market. And today I'm here to share with you my findings. After trying app after often terrible app, I landed on 2 that rather surprisingly stood out to me to be the best in terms of design, functionality, features, and pricing. And when I say pricing, I also mean I was looking for a one-time purchase, because if I can help it, I really don't want to pay monthly for an app that I plan on using for many years to come. Especially when I don't think a good Habits app needs to have infinite features and constant updates that incorporate emergent AI technology and whatnot. Now, a good Habits app can be quite simple as long as it is good at helping you achieve your goals, formulating good habits while eradicating bad habits. So in today's video, I'm going to try and quickly point out a few key reasons why I like these 2 apps, and especially the first one I'm about to walk you through. And then I want to share a couple honorable mentions. These might not be the best overall apps in the world, but each brings something to the table that most every Habits app on the market is lacking, which is why I just had to give them a quick shout out, because I'd love to see more of what they're doing well happen in other apps, even these first 2 I'm featuring today. Oh, and I've got a special surprise at the end, a 5th Habits app that might actually be the one that I, and maybe you, end up using long term. All right, are you ready to master your habits and in 2024 achieve the best performance of your life?
The best performance of my life.
The best performance of your life?
The best performance of my life.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro, Habit List, as much as I've loved using it for the past 3 years, it's not currently working on my phone, so I can't properly demo it for you. But I've been emailing back and forth with Scott, one of the creators of the app, and a fix is in the works. So in theory, I will make a video in the near future when Habit List is indeed
fully armed and operational.
But in the meantime, let's take a look at the 2 best options I discovered this past couple months. Okay, so the first app on the docket today is called Daystamp. And honestly, this one came out of nowhere. Frankly, I'm surprised there haven't been tons of YouTube reviews on this app because I found it to be quite well designed. And the more time I spent using it, the more I enjoyed the experience, which is a lot more than I can say about most all of the other apps I tried out in my recent quest for the best. Truth be told, I actually created an hour-plus long video about just this app alone, but then realized if I were to feature Daystamp along with these other couple apps in one video, it would literally be about 3 hours.
That's too long.
So that being said, for now, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of some key features that I love about Daystamp. And if your curiosity is piqued, well, subscribe to this channel and click the bell to get notified when I post my in-depth reviews of both Daystamp and Habit Tracker, the second featured app we'll be discussing today. So yeah, all that being said, let's get into what makes Daystamp so great. Primarily, it's the design. The design is super clean. There's great typography and use of space. And the analytics, oh my, they're scrumptious to look at. It's not just about the aesthetics, but Daystamp has such a nice flow to it. And things, for the most part, just work as you would expect them to. For example, there's this little day nav up here at the top, which lets you quickly scroll back up to 30 days. And notice as I select a specific day in December, there's this nifty little arrow that appears, which if you tap it, will always jump you right back to the current day. And then notice how the arrow immediately disappears as we no longer need it. Contextual design at its finest. So let's take a look at how I've set up my Daystamp list of habits. Just so you can see how a brand new day looks with a full list of habits, let's go way back in time to December 2023. So here we are in December 12th, and a couple of things I want to point out here. One, you see how it says morning there? And if I scroll down, you see how it says afternoon and evening. Now those time separations are not auto-created by Daystamp. What those are groups. And I just happened to name my groups morning, afternoon, and evening, because that's how I wanted to group my habits. But you can literally group them however you want. Perhaps for you, you'd rather group your habits by work versus personal, or maybe positive habits versus negative habits. It's totally up to you how you want to group your habits, or you can just not group them at all. But for me, I wanted to arrange my habits chronologically, and it just made sense for me to group them in these 3 time blocks. And obviously you can see all the different colors here, which of course you can colorize each individual habit however you want. I chose to color code my habits such that anything orange is health related, anything green is workout related, and anything red is a negative habit that I want to try and not do every day. And you'll notice how I put those at the very bottom of my list because that tends to be the last thing I check off for the day if I have successfully avoided alcohol or junk food. And I throw in a couple extra colors for some of these other daily habits of mine. So again, I'll be posting a 1 hour plus in-depth tutorial of all that you can do with Daystamp. But for now, I just want to quickly highlight some of what you can do with this app, starting with what it's like to actually create and edit one of your habits. All right, let's jump back to the current day. So let's say you're a totally gross person who does not brush your teeth regularly. And it's about time you really get in the habit of brushing twice a day. Let's create that habit. You simply click on the plus button up here at the top right. You tap in the main color box to name your habit, brush teeth twice daily. So then we choose a very dental color. Oh, and good time to point out here. With the premium version, you can literally choose any color in the universe for your habits. Just click this little eyedropper tool. But yeah, for now, we're sticking with the dental color. So you can turn on notifications if you want and specify what time in the day and which days of the week you want to be notified. Just bear in mind, compared with some other habit apps out there, Daystamp only lets you create 1 notification per day, and it has to be set at the same time for each day. But this is per habit, so you can still get notified at different times of the day on different days for different habits, so that's cool at least. Moving along, here's where you can assign it to a group. Now, it might not make sense to put it in one of my groups because brushing your teeth twice daily would happen at both morning and night, but maybe you create a new group and call it multi-habits, and you can include your habits in there that you do more than once a day, right? So let's try that. And then they have this feature called Display On, where you can specify which days of the week you want this habit to appear in your list. Since you want to start being an upright citizen who brushes their teeth twice a day, we'll go ahead and leave that on every day. And lastly, and by the way, this is a brand new feature they just added a couple weeks ago, you can specify how many times a day you want to do this habit. So in our case, for brushing your teeth twice a day, let's set the daily check-in to be 2. So that's it. Click save and voila, our new habit is created and it's within its own group as well, at the top of our list. Also, check this out. Unlike a normal once-a-day habit, like me studying German daily, notice when I tap on Deutsch, it immediately marks it complete. But with our brush teeth habit, when I tap the circle to complete it, notice this little half circle animation, which obviously means we've only done it once for the day, but at night, after you've brushed before bed, when you tap the circle, only then does it mark it complete. Nice, eh? All right, one more thing I want to mention here is you might not want to do a habit every day, but you might want to have a weekly or monthly goal. So let's take a look at my water plants habit. To edit a habit, simply tap on the habit in your list, which brings you to this lovely little landing page for the habit. If you click here at the top right, you get 3 options where you can either edit the habit, archive it, which is awesome because sometimes you don't want a habit to last forever, so you can temporarily archive it but reactivate it whenever you want, and it will beautifully remember all of the habit's previous history. So you lose nothing by archiving a habit. Anyway, so let's tap edit, and notice here under goal, I set it to be 3 times per week. Doesn't really matter which days of the week, but just so long as the plant gets watered 3 times per week, I'm good. So now, when we return to our main list, you see how there's this nifty little flag and the 2 habit_3. That's simply communicating that I've already watered the plant twice this week, and once I tap it for today, Friday, I will have reached my goal of 3 for the week. Nice. Oh, and by the way, there's a bunch of settings you can adjust, like you can have habits disappear from your list as soon as you complete them, and you can also have a habit not show up for the rest of the week once you've completed the goal for that week. So for example, since we've already watered the plant 3 times this week, we can set it so that it no longer displays in our habit list tomorrow, Saturday. But then come Sunday, as the new week begins, our water plants habit will reappear. It's really up to you how you want to interact with and display your habits throughout your week, but I will save the more complete tutorial on all that for the in-depth video coming out probably next week. So again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to do so in order to get notified when these upcoming in-depth tutorials are posted. So yeah, I could literally go on for hours showcasing all the little nuances of Daystamp, but in the interest of keeping this video reasonably short, let's move on to our second featured app today, which is called Habit Tracker. Okay, Habit Tracker. At first, I was blown away by the vast array of features and level of customization that this app offers. And honestly, I thought it was a no-brainer to go with this app over all the others, especially at a price point of only $6. And that's not per month. That's a one-time purchase for life. But here's the thing. The more I used it, the more I fell out of love with it. Although the app overall is well designed, there are a few moments that arise in your user experience that just get you scratching your head, like, But I don't know. This app really is great and better than most other habit apps out there on the market, which is why I'm featuring it today. But it's far from perfect, even though it offers so much. If it sounds like I'm going back and forth, both praising this app and criticizing it, well, that's how it leaves me feeling at the end of the day. But let me just quickly walk you through the app and you can start to see what I'm talking about. How Habit Tracker is both great and occasionally not so great. Okay, first, the good. Customization galore. As you get acquainted with me and this new YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. You'll quickly realize that I'm a huge fan of customization. Basically, when an app or service or platform allows you the ability to really custom tailor the experience to your own needs and desires. And this is where Habit Tracker truly shines. Well, for the most part. When you're creating a new habit, unlike a lot of other habits on the market, you can actually specify whether it's a build habit, meaning it's a habit you want to do, or whether it's a quit habit, obviously the type of habit you want to not do. When you create your custom habit, you can of course specify the color, but also you can assign it an icon or an emoji, if that's what you're into. Me personally, I find emoji in apps like this to be kind of tacky, whereas the icons look really slick in the interface. So moving along, even better than how in Daystamp you could put a habit into one singular group, with Habit Tracker, you can actually assign it multiple tags, which is just great because it's more accommodating when you have certain habits that possess multiple characteristics. For example, your vitamins habit could be tagged as both health, but also evening. So if you wanted to view your health habits, vitamins would show up there. But if you just wanted to view your evening habits, well, vitamins would also show up there too. Like with Daystamp, you can set your desired goals and frequency, but you can get even more granular with Habit Tracker. Check this out. A certain amount per week, or specific days of the month, however uniquely you want to track your habits, you can do so with Habit Tracker. And it's cool how you can assign what time of day you want a certain habit to be completed. You don't have to create a group and name it the time of the day. They actually give you these default time blocks. The default is any time, but if it's always a morning habit for you, then mark it as a morning habit. And not only that, they've got this slick interface under settings, more settings, where you can actually designate what specific hours are considered morning, afternoon, and evening. Pretty cool. Again, ultra customizable to fit the nuances of your specific day-to-day life experience. And this may actually be my favorite feature about this app, which is not only can you create multiple reminders per habit, meaning you might want to be reminded to do habit 1 on Tuesday at 3 p.m., but then be reminded to do the same habit every Thursday at 9 a.m. Love the flexibility there. But just wait, it gets even better. You can also set up a reminder based on location, such that you'll be reminded about a habit whether you're arriving or leaving a specific location. I'm not going to demo all of that right now, but stay tuned for the full in-depth review of this app that I should be posting next week, where I explain all of these features and more in vivid detail. But one last thing I have to quickly mention about here that I love is you can assign a custom sound to each of your notifications. You can either choose from one of their 6 options, or you can select any audio file of your own that you want to use, or you can even have it record a voice sample of you saying something right there in the app, and your voice recording will play at the time or location you specify. Brilliant. I absolutely love this, and I wish more habit apps, or even just apps in general, would offer features like this. Moving along, you can specify your preference for whether it'll prompt you to leave a note about whatever habit you just completed, or bypass that altogether. Me personally, I rarely ever write a note when I check off a habit for the day, so I tend to toggle this off. But it's great that you have that option, and also that it's not a global setting, meaning there might be some habits where you do want to leave a note when you complete it, but other habits where you don't want to leave a note. Once again, Habit Tracker is very accommodating here for whatever your needs are. And then they give you the option for what do you want to have happen when you swipe right to complete a habit. The default is, of course, to just mark the habit as complete. But let's say your habit is to drink 8 glasses of water a day. If you want to swipe right every time you have a glass to add +1 to your daily count, you can specify your swipe right to add value. You can have it be +1. Or maybe you just want to specify at the end of the day exactly how many glasses you had. If that's the case, you probably want to choose the option pop-up keypad, meaning when you swipe right in your main habit list, it'll bring up a keypad where you can type in exactly how many glasses of water you had that day. Again, super customizable for each of your habits. It all just depends on how you want to keep track of your habits. Oh, and get this, when it comes to viewing your data and analytics, they even let you choose whether you want a bar graph or a line graph. And once again, this is not a global setting. If it makes more sense for you to view this particular habit as a bar graph, you can do so, while setting other habits to display as a line graph.
Well, isn't that wonderful?
And lastly, whereas in Daystamp, you can't actually specify a start or end date for a habit, with Habit Tracker, you can. So yeah, there you go. And trust me, this all just scratches the surface of all you can do and customize with this app. It really is powerful and feature-rich. And like I said, it's a one-time purchase of only $6. But like I said at the onset, occasionally there are some moments that are just iffy. Like for example, you might assume that you can just long press a habit to reorder your list. And it kind of works that way, but with a totally unnecessary extra step. When you long press a habit, this is what happens. Instead of being able to just drag and drop here, it brings up this overlay where you can then reorder your habits. But why not just drag and drop to reorder them in your default list? Totally unnecessary extra step here. And not only that, but this is so ugly at the bottom. This barely legible orange text on this light tan background at the bottom. I mean, I know this may be a bit nitpicky, but this is what I mean when I say the longer I use an app like Daystamp, the more I'm delighted to use it. Whereas with Habit Tracker and moments like this, I just get a bit annoyed. And trust me, there are more moments like this throughout the app, and the feeling just kind of accumulates. Let's say to the point where you just find the overall experience to be less pleasurable than it could be. And some of these issues seem totally fixable, and I'm probably going to reach out to the development team and bring some of these issues to their attention. So perhaps they'll make some modifications and make the app even better, at which point I might have nothing to complain about anymore. And I may proclaim it from the rooftops that Habit Tracker is indeed the best habits app of 2024. But hey, Before we move on to the couple honorable mentions that I want to include in this video, and the surprise at the end, let me just give a little more praise to Habit Tracker. One, I love their dark mode because it is a pure black, unlike in Daystamp, which is more of a dark gray. But hey, maybe that's just a pet peeve of mine for dark modes in general, but I gotta speak my truth here. Two, I gotta give the edge to Habit Tracker in terms of their widgets. Not only are they a bit sexier with that pure black backdrop, especially if you keep a black background on your iPhone's home screen like me, but also they give you more variety of displays. Like check this out. For this water habit I created, where I set a daily goal of 80 ounces per day. As I swipe right on the habit, it brings up the keypad. I type in, let's say 40 ounces, because that's how much I drank today. And then I go back to my home screen and it immediately displays my daily progress for that habit. Super slick. Oh, and speaking of this, Habit Tracker does a way better job of keeping track of numeric data. So for example, not just whether you drank 8 glasses of water in a given day, but you can choose to keep track of exactly how many ounces of water you drank. And it will retain all of that data and display it for you nicely in your analytics. In theory, you could do the same thing for your runs. Like if you set a goal of running 3 miles a day, however many miles you input into the app that you ran, it will actually record that data and tell you your average miles per day and that sort of thing. Now for me, I already use the Nike Run Club app to keep track of my running, but just letting you know, Habit Tracker definitely has an edge over Daystamp and a lot of other habits apps when it comes to keeping track of numerical data, not just a binary of whether a habit is completed or not. And one more plus for Habit Tracker is that it syncs via iCloud, so you can seamlessly use the app on your iPhone and iPad. Unfortunately, there's not a dedicated web app or Mac app for either Daystamp or Habit Tracker, so yeah, just letting you know. Okay, like I said earlier, if you're even more curious about either Daystamp or Habit Tracker, definitely subscribe to this channel because next week I'll be posting in-depth tutorials showcasing all their many features, as well as pointing out some of their more frustrating aspects or limitations, so that you can make an absolutely, truly informed decision about whether you'd want to go with one of these two great apps to build solid habits in 2024 and beyond. But hey, like I mentioned earlier, I've got a couple honorable mentions for you today. Unless you are an absolute habits app super nerd,
nerd alert,
who's done countless hours of research on all of this yourself, I have a feeling you probably haven't heard of at least one of these next two apps. And a little disclaimer, I'm not suggesting that you should actually use either of these apps long term, but I do want to give a little praise where praise is due, acknowledging these smaller developers for some things they're actually doing quite well and better than a lot of the other bigger players in the Habits app space. All right, first honorable mention goes to a little app called Super Habit, although it's a bit strange because when you install the app, it's listed in your phone as Daily Habits. A grievance of mine that a lot of these app developers aren't consistent with their naming and branding, which I don't get, as it only does them a disservice as it confuses potential customers. But anyway, the thing that's kind of unique about Super Habit is that they offer this card approach to their interface. And especially in their dark mode, I just find it super sexy. And even though I miss out on the satisfaction of being able to swipe left to right to complete my daily habits, there's still something quite enjoyable about tapping on these cards. I just love how they light up. The typography and colors in this dark mode, I honestly just find their visual design to be the sexiest of all habit apps I've tried out this past couple months. But unfortunately, that's kind of where my love for this app ends. Their overall navigation and flow throughout the app is just not that great. For example, if you want to go back a day, well, good luck with that. There's obviously no slider up top to go back in time. So get this, in order to go back and edit any of your previous day's entries, you'd have to tap a card to go into that Habits homepage and then click on past dates. And then on this very crude, totally non-sexy page, you'd scroll down and tap the check marks to either add or subtract them from your history. When you compare with Daystamp and Habit Tracker, and even a lot of other habit apps on the market, this is just super clunky. Anyway, kudos to them for their sexy minimalist card interface. But beyond that, they have a lot of work to do to measure up to Daystamp and Habit Tracker, and frankly, a lot of other habit apps on the market. But moving along, our second honorable mention is an app I can almost guarantee you've never heard of. It's called ONRISE. Even though their home screen looks pretty slick, I won't even begin to break down all the ways in which this app fails from a usability perspective. But nonetheless, I'm giving it a shout out because of one thing that it does super well, that no other apps I've tried have done as well in this regard. And that is, it allows you to choose different sounds for each habit when you complete one. And you can even mute the sound for specific habits if you want to. And it's not like they give you a variety of crappy sounds to choose from either. For some reason, this app, of all the apps out there, they've managed to choose the best completion sounds I've heard. Here, take a listen. So for that reason and that reason alone, congratulations to the developer of ONRISE. Thank you for the wonderful sound selections. And I really wanted to highlight this in the hopes that other app developers out there will pay more attention to not only the visual design of their apps, but also the sound design, as a poor choice of sounds can ruin an otherwise good experience. Frankly, I was surprised that Habit Tracker, despite all of its many customization options, including the ability to use your own audio files or recordings as notification sounds, when it comes to the swipe completion sound, which, let's be honest, that's what you're going to be hearing several times a day, day after day for months and years. When it comes to that, you're stuck with their default, rather generic sound. And your only sound option in their settings is to mute the app altogether. Again, just kind of strange to me with Habit Tracker, how they seem to go so overboard with features in one area of the app, but then they totally neglect other areas, which might even be more important areas. This is the thing. When it comes to human beings and habits, it's like dogs and the Pavlovian response. For those of you who don't know, Ivan Pavlov, a Russian physiologist, conducted experiments with dogs in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He discovered that if he rang a bell every time he gave them food, the dogs started to get excited just by hearing the bell, even if there was no food. This phenomenon is known as the Pavlovian response, or classical conditioning, illustrating how learned associations can influence behavior. Applying these findings to our habits and the apps we may use to help sustain them, the more pleasurable of an experience the app can be with its literal bells and whistles, the more likely we are to keep using the app and thus keep going with our habits. Creating habits and sticking with them for the long haul is no small feat, which is why most people fail. People excitedly declare their New Year's resolutions. And yeah, for the first couple of weeks in January, the gyms are super packed, as everybody knows. But come February, attendance has dwindled and reverted back to normal, where only the truly serious people are sticking with their workout habits. Because the thing is, a lot of your good habits are not necessarily going to be fun or pleasurable in the moment. In fact, some of them may be downright grueling and feel like actual suffering. So how are you going to overcome the difficulty factor? At the end of the day, yeah, it comes down to discipline. But we're only human. We get weak and we, lack discipline.
You lack discipline.
So I say, whatever you can do to help sweeten the journey of reaching your long-term goals, this is the key to forging successful habits. You've got to find a way to actually enjoy the process. As a bona fide nerd, I get off on glancing at all my stats and analytics, trying to extend my streaks to a new personal best, taking pride in my progress, visually seeing how far I've come already, even though I still have so much further to go. Also, there's this quote I love from James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." I couldn't agree more. I think a huge part of why so much time transpires in people's lives, where essentially they just drift, year after year, decade after decade, same old, until there's no time left, is because life is a series of moments. And if you fail in the moment consistently, you'll end up failing in the grand scheme of things. And I don't mean to call you or myself a failure. in the nastiest sense of the word. But I do think there's a quiet voice within each of us that knows the potential we have for greatness, or at least some higher level of performance and happiness than where we currently are and have been. And if we truly want to aspire to more in life, it starts with listening to that inner voice, believing that you are indeed capable of more. But then you do need to take action to actually reach your potential. And in order to take action consistently, you need a solid system. And as you continue watching this new YouTube channel in 2024, go ahead and subscribe today, right now, if you haven't already. I'm going to be presenting various ways in which to build a great system for yourself in order to be more productive and creative, and ultimately get what you want out of life. All right, all that being said, before I end this video, I did promise you one more bonus app. As much as I dig Daystamp and Habit Tracker, there's another app that I did not review today that may actually become my habit app of choice in the very near future. As for why this app fell off my shortlist early on,
let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Well, the free version is pretty limited in that you can only create 3 habits, and they don't even let you see any of your analytics. So I felt like there wasn't enough there to try out in order to get a full sense of whether this app was right for me or not. But here's the good news. I just found out that this app, literally any day now in January, is going to be included as part of my Set app subscription. So once that happens, I'll be able to use the premium version of this Habits app without paying an extra penny. For those of you who don't know, Set app is a subscription service that provides access to a huge curated collection of slick Mac apps that genuinely help boost your productivity and creativity. And not only just for your Mac, but they also offer some iOS apps as well. One of which, like I just mentioned, in the very near future, is going to be this app called Awesome Habits. So once I'm able to install it as part of my Set app subscription, I'm going to plug in all my various habits and put it through its paces for at least a week or so, and report back to you with my honest take on its pros and cons, and whether it ends up being the best app for me to move forward with. As I quickly gave Awesome Habits a second glance, now knowing that it's going to be included in my Set app subscription, I could already tell it has a lot of potential. It almost kind of feels like an amped up version of Habit List, which, as I mentioned at the start of this video, is the bare bones minimalist habit app that I've been using for the past 3 years. The interface and experience feels similar to Habit List, but with some much desired perks, including it has an actual dedicated Mac app in addition to the iPhone and iPad apps. It has some slick interactive widgets, meaning you can actually mark habits as complete straight from the widget, as opposed to the widget just taking you to the app when you tap the widget. And thirdly, you can archive your habits, which yes, you can do in Daystamp and Habit Tracker, but you still can't do that in Habit List. Plus, apparently there's a bunch of integration options with Apple shortcuts. I'm actually quite eager to get started using it, to see if it dethrones Daystamp as my new #1 pick for the best habit app in 2024. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I mentioned earlier, regardless of which app or potentially multiple apps I decide on moving forward with in 2024 and beyond, I will still be posting my in-depth reviews of both Daystamp and Habit Tracker within the next couple weeks. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel and click that little bell in order to be notified as soon as these and other new videos drop. Oh, and if you're interested in joining Set app, which I highly recommend, I've included my affiliate link in the video description down below. All right, folks, that's all for now. If you've enjoyed this video and maybe discovered a possible new habits app for you to use in 2024, do give this video a thumbs up by clicking the like button down below. And of course, to watch more videos all about productivity and creativity, be sure to subscribe to this channel. And hey, I'm curious. Let me know in the comment section down below if you end up trying one of these apps I recommended today. Or if you absolutely love some other app, let me know. Perhaps I should do an in-depth review of your habits app of choice. Like I've been hinting at throughout this video, there really is no one perfect habits app, and certainly not a one-size-fits-all option for everybody. It's highly subjective. Which one or ones are the best, as at the end of the day, it really just comes down to which app is going to personally suit you the best in order for you to stick with your good habits and squash your bad habits. and ultimately live your best life. All right, y'all. See you in the next video.
Subscribe to the channel. We're just getting started.